Hey, welcome to another edition of Live Since You Asked. It's the show that gets us up close and personal with St. John's Prep alumni who are kind of a big deal. I'm your host, Chad Konecki, and I'm standing in for Headmaster Ed Hardiman, who's attending to precious matters and pressing matters, and he sends his regards. And Jason, he assures us he's going to watch on tape.
Great.
The Jason I'm referring to is Jason Recher from the class of 1998, or what he has dubbed for more than 2 decades as the Great 98. Jason's a native of Rye, New Hampshire, who owns what is perhaps the most eclectic resume I've encountered in 30 years in journalism. He worked for George W. Bush White House, spanning large parts of both terms of that administration, subsequently worked on a presidential campaign, later became a principal partner at a global strategic marketing firm, and then served as director of the Coastal Wildlife and Species Survival Center at the Autobahn Nature Institute before coming to Walt Disney in 2017, first as director of communications and events, and then since January as vice president of content creation and digital integration for Disney parks, experiences, and products. He's graciously giving us his time, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, you're joining us from New Orleans?
I'm in LA now, and we're moving to Orlando in 6 days. So we're kind of in transit once again.
Got it. Okay, so you're still bopping around.
Yeah.
Well, so your title, current title, let's dive right in.
Sure.
VP of Segment Content Creation and Digital Integration. So I'm going to try and guess what this is. I think sort of laser targeting different elements of your content to niche consumer demographics so by meeting them where they're at is sort of something that's super important in your job, and something that Mercedes-Benz does really well. I think, as you probably know, the integration part is making sure that delivery is seamless across all platforms, web, mobile, etc. Is that accurate? And can you expand on that for us?
It is accurate. First, I'd love to say, thanks for having me on. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Sorry, the video is not working today, but as my mother, who I think is listening, always told me, I have a face for radio, so it works out for the audience. But yes, you're absolutely right. We are, a part of the Walt Disney Company, the largest part of the Walt Disney Company, with parks and resorts and cruise lines and Disney stores and products all across the world. So, our job and our team is really a diverse group of creatives that come together and create content, whether it's video, graphic, boomerang, TikToks, you name it, and then kind of digitally amplify and integrate across the globe. So it's been certainly an interesting time to be in this position, and as part of this team, where really everybody's getting their news and information, from social media largely.
Sure, I'm going to ask you about that in a minute, but I'm wondering, can you teach me how to do what you do? Because that would probably mean a really big promotion for me.
I learned everything I know from St. John's Prep, so stick with them.
And the breadth of your professional experience is really astounding. I'm curious if there's a common thread or threads that you could identify from nearly 2 decades of professional life that are critical to success, even when there's sometimes very different job requirements.
Yeah, I think, throughout my career, if you see a door that's kind of open, even if it's just a crack, feel free to push it open and explore what's on the other side. I think as you mentioned, I've loved the career that I've had. It's been incredibly diverse. Every day is a challenge. I don't measure a day as a success unless I've made a mistake and learned from it. So it's something that, is constantly, changing. And really, a lot of the skill sets that I learned there at the prep about, teamwork, about having a strong foundation, about humility, some of those lessons are things that I've carried with me throughout.
Yeah, that's it. I'm going to get into that as well, because your experience here is kind of legendary in a way. I spoke with your former teacher, Chris Lynch, a little while ago about you. So I got some inside information.
Oh no, he's the
Um,
best. We started at the same year. He was a amazing mentor and has continued to be an awesome friend. So, Guten Tag, Herr Lynch.
I'm sure he's watching. I wouldn't doubt it. Um, hey, so this is a question I kind of wish I didn't have to ask, but Disney closed parks in Asia and Europe on March 12th. They closed stateside March 16th. I think just last week you guys announced that you were closing Frozen on Broadway. So it goes without saying this has been a very different job for you in the last 10 weeks, and you only started in January. What's been the biggest challenge so far, and maybe do you see an opportunity here?
Sure. I mean, I think to kind of set the record for the rest of the interview. I'm not an official spokesperson for the company, so any of my views are kind of my own. But I think there are obviously tremendous challenges all across through the world. But there's also amazing opportunities. I kind of always harken back and remind our team, and they often remind me about some of the inspiration of our founder Walt Disney. Um, you
Sure.
know, he often spoke when he started Disneyland over 65 years ago, that it would never be finished as long as their imagination left in the world. So it's been amazing to see, some of the Disney fans and guests and others kind of recreating their canceled vacations and experiences, at home and sharing them on the internet. And some of them have had, 20, 30, 40 million views. So it's amazing to see the affinity to the brand, the connection that people have to the park specifically, and a strong desire to get back. Just yesterday morning, I woke up to a message from a former classmate from the class of 98, the great 98, asking me if I thought we'd be, back open in early September. He was eager to book a trip for his family. So the passion's still there for the parks, and look forward to getting back and operating.
Fantastic. People are. This is something that struck me about how hard your job is, because the brand reputation of Disney is so strong and it's so beloved, and it touches so many different people in different parts of their life, um, that you're a little bit like the guy who shows up at the lion cage with a bunch of steaks in a way, but at the same time building on that brand and protecting that brand, um, and doing what you're charged with doing becomes even harder in a way. Is that fair to say?
I would say it's harder, but it's easier. I mean, I look at this opportunity as amazing. I mean, you get to work for one of the most beloved brands, in history.
Yeah.
So people are, still loving that brand, but we're sharing it with them in a different way. I look at the example of the Dapper Dans, which is a all male a cappella group that's based at Disneyland and Disney World. And these guys came up with the idea to record their voices from home, if you will. So
Huh.
for the first few weeks of shutdown, they went into their home studios, kind of like we are now, and recorded these beautiful songs that we've been able to share with our guests throughout. So kind of still keeping that passion for the brand. It's been going and looking at different ways of sharing that for sure has been, I think, an opportunity to kind of break outside the box, and also to take the magic of the parks and share it with the folks at home. The amazing guests and fans who are able to view it, for the first time through social media.
So let me switch gears a little bit. You know, your relationship with St. John's is at least well known to me, and so strong. I wanted to ask you about mentors, and they don't have to be from St. John's. I'm sure you've had more than a few in your career. What role have they played in your career development? And then, should we all seek out mentors at every stage of our professional life?
I think absolutely. I think mentorship is something that is important to receive, and it's also important to give. I mean, I look at a variety of mentors. I won't mention all their names here because I'm sure some of them are listening, so I don't want to offend too many. But it's really, I would say the best advice I have about mentorship is not latching yourself to one necessarily, to kind of looking around for a diverse group of opinions, people that challenge you, people that have a different life story than you, and people that you can learn from. And it's not always people that have had great accomplishments in life either. It's people that have had challenges, have grown from them, and have learned from them. To me, those are some of the best mentors, that I've had and people that I've learned from.
If you had to identify an aspect of your of your prep education, whether it be concrete or abstract, what might you point to as having given you a leg up or prepared you in some way for the successes that you've had at really every stage of your professional life?
Man, I couldn't pinpoint one thing, but I would say, for me personally, joining St. John's Prep was a life-changing experience. I left, a small town in New Hampshire. We commuted. My parents drove for the first few years. I got my license early because New Hampshire has different rules. But we commuted 2 hours a day, just to have that education and be part of that community. So for me, it was a great personal sacrifice for our family to, attend and make the commute and be a part of the events and kind of come down there. But I think that sense of community is what it really left me with. Still have great friends, Pat O'Leary and Ryan Webb and Justin Henry, and others, who we still have that group text chain going 20 something years later, about this, and I'm sure I'll get one in a minute. But that sense of community is always what it left me with. So that's something I've tried to foster in all these different, positions I've been fortunate to have, and kind of go from there. You mentioned New Orleans. We did live in New Orleans for about 10 years after Hurricane Katrina. And that's something that drew me to New Orleans, was that beautiful sense of community, even in the, most dire of times. People coming together, neighbors helping each other, members of the faith community getting involved in helping each other. That to me is, I think, the hallmark of what, St. John's Prep left me. And also, the ability to work hard. I've never been challenged academically, at least, as I was there. For me, college was a different experience. The prep was the hard one. Larry O'Neill's AP government class, hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
It's not surprising to me that community sensibility resonated with you. I mean, in speaking with Herr Lynch, your former teacher at the prep, he said you were such a unifier across the school culture insofar as you had friends across every conceivable demographic. Why do you think that came so naturally for you, especially coming from a small town?
I don't know. I think that I remember my first day at the prep. We were standing out in line in the theater, and Home Alone had been a popular movie at the time, and somebody came up to me and said, "You look like the kid from Home Alone, Buzz." And that nickname kind of stuck. Through 4 years, I still have some friends, refer to me as that, and it's weird when they call me anything else. But that was an early, kind of indicator. But also, diving into an experience like that. For me, coming from New Hampshire, not Massachusetts, coming from far away, you just have to survive, and by making friends and building alliances and partnerships and teams, was a great part of that education for me.
Just for the record, Buzz was the guy with the tarantula, right?
He was, and his name is Devin Recher, and I follow him on Instagram. I feel like I've exceeded him at some point in life. He played a child molester on Law and Order SVU, and my cousin actually mentioned that in a toast at our wedding, much to the horror of our family. But he's still around and acting. Good for him.
I think you got him beat. What's a piece of advice? I mean, these questions are always so hard and a little bit cliche, but it's still so important to me to ask you, given where you place St. John's in your sort of trajectory. What's a piece of advice you would give to a current high school student or young alumnus, who is looking to maybe get into communications or media relations and politics? And the sub question to that, I guess, is what would you look for if you were trying to hire someone at a junior level right now?
Yeah, I think advice I'd give to anybody going to many careers, especially communications and politics, is get to know people, understand what makes people tick, understand what their passions are, and kind of embrace those, especially if they're different than yours. Being challenged, I think, is one of the great opportunities in life. So I would encourage that. And what was the second part? Oh, what's something I look for? Creativity, for sure. Creativity and passion would be the two things that I look for. When you see a resume come across and one looks a little bit different than the other. I always go with the one that looks a little bit different. Now, don't be too different, but don't go crazy. But it's amazing to see. I got a resume, not long ago from somebody that was super passionate about Disney, that had an incredible resume, and they included a 2 or 3 point, page PowerPoint presentation, including their first family visit to, Walt Disney World in the early '80s. So it was
Wow.
awesome to see, that kind of outside the box, creativity.
You alluded to this earlier, and I asked everybody this. I mean, we talk a lot about our students and with them about the notion that, sort of encountering adversity and overcoming setbacks, back to the drawing board type moments are actual just mile markers on the road to success. It would be weird if you didn't encounter them. Can you give us a real life example of that for you?
Yeah, I mean, there's, I'm sure there's, plenty of them especially if you Google them. Like a great example is, I was hell bent on going to George Washington University out of St. John's Prep. I got there and it wasn't for me. I didn't feel like it was a strong sense of community. That's not to knock it because I hold a degree from there. But we with the support of my parents and our family, we reset and came to Boston College, for a year after that, and didn't really know where life would take me. And just because I was back in Boston, I was close to New Hampshire, I received a call from a former neighbor in Portsmouth that said, "Hey, I've got a friend that's going to run for president. Would you be interested in volunteering on his campaign over the summer?" And really, that's for me, kind of how it started. So I was not in a great place in life, kind of transitioning into a freshman year halfway through was a huge challenge. Not having a dorm room. I lived actually in Winthrop on a prep Adam Featherston's futon for a while during that period, so I didn't have to drive all the way back and forth from Newton to Rye. But to me, it's that was a life-changing experience for me. So kind of taking that opportunity and seizing it and going from there.
Wow, good answer. I love that. So before I got to some audience questions, and we have a few already, but I wanted to do what we call the speed round, where it's either short answer or even just free association word that comes to mind. We usually do like 10 of them, but in the interest of time,
the first 20 minutes wasn't the speed round.
What's that now?
I said the first 20 minutes wasn't a speed round.
I can see why you're a creative. I definitely can. So these are only a handful or less, but they're fun. So I'm fascinated to know your answer to this one because you kind of have done everything. But if you weren't doing what you're doing now, what profession would you most like to try?
Musician, for sure.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Did you play an instrument here at the prep?
I did not, but I would love to learn to play the piano and be a musician. I came from a musical family, and that's always been a passion, but don't have the skill for it.
Well, you got time.
Yeah.
Of the 5 Zavarian values, simplicity, humility, trust, compassion, and zeal, which one speaks to you the most, you reckon?
I would say compassion.
Mm-hmm. Great answer. You're known for having dubbed the graduating class of your year the Great 98. In 3 words or less, what are the characteristics about that class that stand out for you?
Pride, camaraderie, and service.
Wow, he's good. No hesitation. Okay, this is a tough one for a guy in the entertainment business. In your spare time, would you rather read something, watch something, or listen to something?
I would add a 4th answer. I'd rather do something. That would be kind of my model. Is get up and go do something, experience life. I've had the amazing opportunity to travel extensively, and there's a whole wide world out there that hopefully we can get back to seeing more often, but also just, walking around our neighborhood here in LA in the last 8 weeks, has opened our eyes to kind of the beauty of where we live. We're normally used to commuting and moving kids around to practices and things. There's a whole world right in front of you as well.
Amen. That leads to a perfect question from the audience about when your answer is do something. What is your favorite ride at Disneyland and at Disney World, or at one of the overseas parks, if you've seen one of those yet?
I would say the Haunted Mansion, at all the parks. It truly is that classic, Walt Disney Imagineering creativity. These are characters and songs and experiences that were created just for Disney parks. And I love the history that they have and the connection that our cast have, to them. We were just reading a story about cast members who, had met working as ghost hosts, if you will, in 1989, and are married and still working. So it's awesome to see the connections there. Love at first fright, as they say.
That's a very prep kind of culture. Not that everybody gets married, but that people stay on, right? I mean, they stay associated. Incredible. Here's another one. Did you help with the Mickey Mouse 100th birthday video?
Mickey is 92, I believe, this November, but we did have a great 90th birthday celebration for him.
Okay.
We actually took a teacher, I believe she was from Missouri, and as part of the celebration, she flew around to every Disney park in the world with Ginger Z from Good Morning America. And it was awesome to see the experiences that she was able to bring back to her class and her community, by going to Shanghai and Hong Kong and Tokyo and Paris and Orlando and Anaheim, and kind of get that experience. So it was pretty awesome.
Wow, that is such a cool idea. Talk about content segmentation.
There you go. Exactly.
You guys nailed that. I have another one here. Could you touch upon the Disney Marvel relationship, obviously from your personal point of view, not as an agent of the company, and how it integrates into your job?
Sure. I think that, at Disney over the last, decade or so, we've seen, we always have had incredible stories and characters, and that growth of stories and characters with, Star Wars and with Marvel and with Fox and with Pixar has just grown, so rich over the years. So last year, we opened Star Wars Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland Park and at Disney Hollywood Studios in Orlando. And it's the largest single land in kind of Disney history theme park expansion. This, currently in construction is Avengers Campus, at Disneyland, and a Guardians of the Galaxy roller coaster, Mission Breakout at Epcot. So the connection and passion and loyalty to these stories, these characters, this IP, if you will, and infusing that into the parks is, I think, a great, new era in the parks future.
Yeah, that's exciting. I read about that, but I didn't know all that detail. That's going to be great when we get back to a more typical arrangement.
Come visit.
Here's another one. What is your favorite part of working at Disney?
Oh, for sure, the folks that I get to work with. I mean, our team is incredibly diverse in terms of their experience sets. We have folks on our team in Orlando that have been there since day one.
Wow.
We have folks that have been in Anaheim for 40 plus years. And then we have folks that are just out of college and are teaching us all new skills about TikTok and, content creation. So, working with this cast that has this, devotion to, the brand and has kind of lived their experience and that great sense of community, for sure is the highlight. Again, I'll go back to a Walt Disney quote where he said, you can build, the most beautiful park in the world, but it takes people to make the dream a reality. And truly, it's our cast that make all the difference at Disney.
Yeah, what a visionary that guy was.
For sure.
Do you have a memory or a favorite memory of your first visit to Disney World?
I don't know if it is a first visit, but there's so many visits over the years with my parents, and it was always a place that we go and not that we needed an escape from reality, but you can kind of just walk in there and let your worries and cares and stress wash away. Never in my wildest dreams that I think I would ever work at Disney. I probably would have rethought my son's name, Walter. Had we ever known that we'd be a part of this company. Yeah, no, it's so many great memories and look forward to making so many more in the future.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So you're based in Cali now, yeah?
We are in transit from Los Angeles to Orlando in the next week or so.
Okay,
So we are
that's what you mentioned
moving
off the
to
top.
Orlando.
Sure. So, okay, so a little bit closer to Rye. Do you get back to Rye? And when's the next chance to come to, spring and summer streets?
Is that a question from Chris Lynch? Because he's been asking me that for years.
Oh my
Um,
God, you're prescient.
or,
Yes, that was a
or my
question.
mom, one of the two. No, our summer goal is to get back up for sure, and take the kids up to Barnacle Billy's and Agunquit, Maine is one of our favorite spots, and we will for sure, swing by the neighboring hilltops there in Danvers as well.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I mean, you have 3 years until 25. You got to come for that.
There you go. Exactly.
Here's another one. Where would folks go online to find those Disney moments like the Dapper Dans to keep the excitement alive for us as we've had to reschedule our much anticipated Disney vacation?
Sure, for sure. I would go to the Disney Parks blog. You can follow that on Twitter, on Facebook, or on Instagram. And I share a lot of the content as well on my LinkedIn page. So I would love to connect there too.
That is a great answer because I would not have known to go to the blog. So another person's asking, how did you end up working for Autobahn?
A great mentor in life of mine was Ron Foreman, who is kind of a visionary in the zoo and aquarium and conservation industry. I met Ron probably 48 hours after Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans, and obviously the zoo and aquarium there were devastated. After our family had moved to New Orleans, he asked me if I'd like to come on, kind of following the oil spill there in the Gulf of Mexico and help with their conservation efforts. So it was an amazing opportunity. As a kid, I always wanted to be a marine biologist, another kind of passion. So there's one of these doors that was open to crack, and Ron helped push it open, and off we went. So it was a wonderful job. We loved it. We ended up getting married at the zoo. An elephant appeared at our wedding somehow, and kind of went from there. So.
Did you have a communications role there as well?
Yes, yeah, we had communications and government relations. We launched a seafood sustainability program for the Gulf of Mexico. We did all of the coastal wildlife network, which was marine mammal and sea turtle rescue and rehab, and all the preparation for any future event, either natural or man-made, in the Gulf of Mexico. Of course, very prone and sensitive to that with a lot of the offshore development and the kind of hurricane alley there.
Boy, government relations, it probably didn't hurt that you spent almost 6 years in the White House.
Yeah. You learn a lot about politics that way.
I believe it. Hey, speaking of that, did another alum, did you cross over with another alum in the Bush White House, Tom Hoare?
I did. Actually, Tom Hoare, I don't know if he's listening, but he did text me about this, but he was encouraged by Chris Lynch, it all comes back to Chris Lynch, to write me a letter. He and I did not cross over at the prep, but I think I graduated after he started. And he wrote me a letter and sent it to the White House and said he wanted to get involved. And we had him come out and volunteer. His last name certainly made him a standout. He's a great friend to this day. We just saw him and his wife last year here in California.
And so somebody like your brother Eric also went to the prep class of 01. He would have crossed over with Tom.
Yep, probably.
Yeah, got it. Sorry, I got a little too inside baseball there. I'm obsessed with the intersections of classmates and schoolmates.
It's great.
So much so that I burned all your time. But what a fantastic way to catch up with you. And just an incredibly enlightening visit. And I'm wondering if you'd, consider updating us down the line with another little sit down.
Anytime. I've loved it. It's great kind of, being reminded and remembering, which I do really on a daily basis, of the foundation that St. John's Prep left in my life. And any way that I can give back, let me know.
Wow. That is called content segmentation right there.
There you go.
Thank you so much for your time, Jason Recher. It's really class of 98. It's really important for folks to hear stories like yours. And we're excited to see Disney fire back up.
We are too. Come visit, and look forward to seeing you all there. See you real soon.
Okay, take it easy.
All right. Thanks, Chad.
Thank you.